Welcome back to Right Fashion Academy YouTube channel for another interesting tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to sew this beautiful shoulder ruched empire waist gown with front slit you are seeing right here on the thumbnail and on the video. The plain fabric right here is Duchess, so it's better you use any fabric that is very light, but I just use cotton for the upper piece just to demonstrate to you how to sew this. So if you want a very good fall, you actually need a soft fabric like chiffon, Duchess, crepe and all that. So this is the front slit, as you can see right here. I decided to make the neckline, the back neckline, a high neckline with a long slit. I'll be sharing with you the tips and tricks to sewing this beautiful dress. The first thing you are going to do is to mark out your zip allowance. I'm marking 1 inch for my zip allowance. We are drafting the back and front piece together. So you place your tape on the shoulder and mark your bust point, under bust, waistline, hip line, and your knee line. I'm going to count 4 inches above my knee line and mark the knee line. After that, you go ahead and begin to highlight the line. So I'll just go ahead and highlight from my bust point, under bust, waistline, hip line, my knee line. Then the full length of this paper is my full length. So my full length is just at the knee line, but you can increase it if you want. Here is my shoulder line, bust point, under bust, waistline, shoulder to hip, shoulder to knee, and the full length. My neck width is 3 inches, but you can make it 3.5 inches if you want. Now I'm going to mark my shoulder divide by 2. From that point, I'm going to mark 10 inches is for my sleeve length. Next, you are going to come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant, then connect it to the 3 inches neck width. From that point, I'm going to measure 9 inches. You can also make it 10 inches if you're on a plus size, but I marked 9 inches for a small size. On the under bust line, you are going to mark your under bust circumference divide by 4, your waist circumference divide by 4, connect it with a straight line. On the hip line, I'm going to mark my hip circumference divide by 4 also. Then I'm going to also mark it there and connect from the waist to the hip line. Now I'm going to take the measurement of what I have on the hip line. Then I'll come over to the knee line and take away 1.5 inches. Then mark the same thing on the full length line. I am going to connect with a straight line from the knee line to the full length. With my curve ruler, I'll connect from the hip line to the knee line. After that, I'll come back to the bust point line. Come down by 1.5 inches. And on the under bust downwards, you mark 1.5 inches. Then connect the 1.5 inches to the 1.5 inches. But I actually wanted to have a very beautiful curve. So I'm now going to make just little adjustment to what I marked before. So at that bust point, come down by 1 inch, and then I'm going to also come down from the under bust by 2 inches. That is just the adjustment. So I'm going to connect from 1 inch from the bust point, below the bust point, to 2 inches below the under bust and connect. Next, I'm going to place my pattern ruler the way you see me right now, from that 2 inches from the under bust to the 9 inches sleeve line. So that is how my pattern is going to look like. For the front neckline, connect from the 3 inches to touch the curve line as shown. Now I'm going to extend my waistline and my hip line for my zip contour line. The neck width for the back is just 1 inch. I'm going to connect that 1 inch to the 3 inches neck width as shown. Then I'm going to extend my 1 inch zip allowance this way. After that, I'm going to contour my waistline by 1 inch. Then I'm going to connect from that 1 inch all the way to the neckline like this. and I'm going to bring it back to the hip line this way. So I'm going to cut off that point. I'm going to also replace the 1 inch on the side of the waist and measure what I have on that little point and mark. That is the replacement of what is taken, what we took off. Then from the waistline, I'll connect back to the hip. We did not take anything away from the hip line. Next, with your straight ruler, you are going to make an extension of that curve to touch the zipper contour line, as you can see. So that is going to be the back piece of this pattern. The pattern is ready now and we are going to cut out. This line is the zipper line, which is the back piece. It's time to cut this beautiful pattern. So I'm cutting it out from the shoulder. I want you to watch to see how I'm cutting. I'll cut off the neckline. So what I'm cutting right now is only the back pattern. I'll take the back pattern all the way down the way you see me cut, like this. So all the outer lines represent the back pattern piece. So here is the zipper line. I'm taking off the zipper bulge line this way. Next, I'll cut into that curve, then cut it straight like this. Okay, so that is how I'm going to cut out this pattern. At this point, we are going to take the length of this pattern. So the length measures 18 inches. I'll multiply it by 2.5 inches to determine the amount of ruche that we are going to have on that shoulder. I got 45 inches in total. So this 45 inches right now, that is what we are going to work with. Next, from that point of that line, just mark a straight line. That is where the under bust side seam started. So we are going to cut it out this way. So instead of slashing and spreading, I'll be sharing with you the tips and tricks to making this without a slash and spread. So I labeled them 1 and 2. Now, if you are using Duchess fabric or crepe or chiffon, this is the 45 inches length and this is 2 yards. I made use of 2 yards. So I will just place it on fold like this. So you place it on fold this way. So your crepe can be 45 inches. You can cut the length 45 inches. It usually comes at 60 inches anyway, but on the length of 60 inches, just cut 45 inches. Then on the 2 yards, you place a fold of 18 inches. So I've already placed my fold just to accommodate my pattern this way. I'll secure it with my pins. After pinning, you can see how I place my pattern. So you are going to place the center front, center back at the other end this way. Then on the other end of the 45 inches length you cut out, you place the sleeve in the outer direction, leaving 1 inch for hemming your sleeve. Then you secure with your pins as well. Now I am going to separate that 18 inches which I folded from my 2 yards. Okay, let me just separate it so we don't have too much bulky fabric to work with. So this is what I have right here. Now we'll begin to add our seam allowances. I added half an inch on my seam allowance. Then on the neckline, I also added half an inch. On the down part, I also added half an inch. So I'll keep cutting the half an inch this way. So once I got to the center of the fabric, I will continue to cut the half an inch, following the shape of this pattern which we have cut. The way you see me cut the half an inch this way. Now on the zipper part, I'm not adding anything because we've already added a seam allowance on the zip part. The back piece is ready right now. I'll just go ahead and take off my pattern. Take off the patterns and fold your fabric for the back piece. Now we are going to cut out the front piece. So for the front piece, just go ahead and cut through the neckline the way you see me do. And we are going to use these patterns to cut out the front piece. We are going to bring back that remaining parts and fold it again on 18 inches fold on the 2 yards length. Then we are going to place our pattern accordingly. Remember to place the center front piece on the outer part like this, like we did for the back, and then place the sleeve part on the other side this way, making sure you also left 1 inch for hemming your sleeve, as you can see. After that, we'll begin to add our seam allowances. I'll begin to add 1/2 inch seam allowances like this on the shoulder line. So at this point you can also add 1 inch, that is if you really want to weave your shoulder seam line, okay? So but I just added 1/2 inch for mine. On the down part, I'll repeat the same thing I did for the front. Then from the center piece of this fabric, I will curve in this way. Then on the neckline, I'm going to add 1/2 inch for seaming the neckline. And that is how this pattern is cut. So we are done with the cutting right now. I'll take off the pattern. For the down part of this, I used only 2 yards of Ankara fabric. So I'm placing it on fold now, and I'll place my pattern on. Make sure you secure your pattern with your pins. So what I did is I made a little extension of the length of this dress. You can see I extended it a little bit. So on the folded part of this fabric, I placed that zipper part, okay? I started to add my 2 inches seam allowance on this side. Here you can see me adding 2 inches all the way down. Then on the zipper line, the part that we contoured, I just cut it out that way. Don't add any seam allowance because we've already added. Then I added 1/2 inch to meet up the 2 inches on this side. Next, I'm going to open up the folded part of that fabric this way. The back pattern piece is ready. I'm taking off my pattern right now. We are going to trim off the zipper allowance and trim off the replacement, so we'll be able to cut out the front piece. Note that the front piece has a slit, so I'm going to add 1 inch for my seam allowance on the front piece. After marking out the 1 inch seam allowance, I'm going to place my pattern exactly on that 1 inch. I also made 5 inches more extension on the length of my dress, just like I did on the back piece. Then I'll begin to add 2 inches for my seam allowance on the side. I also continued to add 1/2 inch on the upper empire waist side like this. So here I have 1 inch for my seam allowance, and that is how the front pattern piece will look like. I'll just go ahead and open up the folded part of my fabric. I'm going to use this to cut out the lining for front and back. My fabric front and back is ready together with its lining. Make sure you note the wrong size of each of these fabric. Next, you are going to reduce your lining by 1 inch. The lining is going to be shorter than the main dress. After reducing the lining by 1 inch, we are going to place it on the main fabric like this, right side to right side. We are going to stitch 1/2 inch and top stitch it. I'm done stitching the down part of this dress right now. Next, I'm going to have top stitched. I'll place it on fold this way. I'll go over to my machine. This is the back piece. Please take note. This is the back pattern we are stitching. So I'll stitch 1/2 inch all the way, leaving the upper part open. After stitching, next I'm going to turn it to the right side this way. Next, I'm going to give it a good press. After ironing the both of them, this is what I got right here. After ironing both of them, this is what I got right here. So I'm going to place it right side to right side. We are going to stitch the zip. Stitch the zip, locate the hip line. Here is my hip line. I'm going to go up by 2 inches on my hip line, then mark 1 inch all the way downwards. I am going to stitch 1 inch all the way to the point of the zip. After sewing, please make sure you open up your seams like this before sewing your zip. The sewing of the zip, just mark 1 inch again and follow the guideline to sew your zip. The zip is ready right now, as you can see. So here I am going to chop off those excesses that came out this way. I will set the back piece aside, then we work on the front dress. Here is the front dress. I've also marked the wrong sides accordingly, and I also reduced the lining by 1 inch. So I take off my pattern right now. So for this piece, we are going to lay it right side to right side for each of them. Next, you are going to mark 15 inches upwards. That is for the slit opening. It depends on your length anyway, but I marked 15 inches upwards. Then I begin to mark 1 inch to the top. We are going to stitch close the upper part and leave the slit. I'll do that for both lining and fabric. After stitching, go ahead and open up the seams this way. I'll open up the seams for front and back. And next, we are going to chop off that excess. I will also do the same for the lining. Here the front piece is ready. We are going to place it right side to right side, as you can see, and then we are going to first stitch the down parts. Okay, after stitching the down part, I also top stitch. So we are going to put the fabric together like this. You can see the seam allowances and the slit. So because the lining is shorter than the main fabric, you have to first place it like this and locate the point, the exact point of the slit on the fabric. So I will mark the exact point of the slit on the lining too. Okay, so we'll now go over to the machine and stitch close that part. So I'll go to the machine now, stitch close that part up to the point of the lining I marked. After stitching the lining up to that point I marked, then I'll place it right side to right side right now. Make sure you align the upper part. Now you can see the slit is matching up. So I'll flip my seam allowance and secure with my pin. Just want to turn it to the other way so you'll be able to see clearly what we are doing. So I am going to pick up the pin and secure it at the front piece like this. Okay, so I just want you to see what I'm doing. Here I've secured with my pin. Next I'm going to mark 1 inch. So I'm going to stitch my slit all the way down to meet that stitching. If you look very well, you see there's a stitch there. Okay, so you have to sew to meet that stitch. I'll also do the same on the other side. Here on the machine, just to demonstrate how I'm stitching my slit, I'll stitch all the way down. So right here you can see me stitching to the point of that stitch. Then I will stop there and top stitch. Here you can see what I got right here. So the skirt piece is ready. I'll quickly turn them to the right side now. I'll turn the both of them to the right side. This is what I got after I'm done turning it to the right side. As you can see, the slit is very much ready now. Don't forget to give it a very good press. After ironing it, next we are going to flip it right side to right side again because we want to stitch close the sides with 1/2 inch. After stitching, I'm going to turn everything to the right side from the upper side this way. Next, I'm going to give the sides a very good press. And I'm going to close up the upper part with a stitch. After sewing the both of them, this is what I have. So we'll jump over to the upper piece. For the upper piece, the first thing we are going to do is to create our facing. The facing length is the length of the neckline and the width is 3.5 inches. Next, I'm going to mark the wrong size of my facing and the wrong size of my fabric too. You're going to place your facing and your fabric right side to right side. Then I'm going to secure with my pin. I'll take it to the sewing machine right now. I'm going to stitch 1/2 inch and top stitch. This is what I got after I'm done stitching and top stitching and giving it a good press. I will set this aside, then we'll work on the back piece. Here is my back piece and here is the wrong size of the back piece. I've already cut out the strip we are going to use for that neckline. Like I said, I made it a high neckline. So the first thing I'm going to do is to hem the straight parts. After hemming the straight parts, this is what I got right here. So we are going to sew the neckline. So like I said, I've already cut out the strips. So here are my two strips. The length of my strip is 25 inches and the width is 1.5 inches. So I'm going to place it right side to right side. So let's go to the machine to demonstrate this. Here on the machine, I'm going to place the neckline right side to the right side of the strip. So you start from the neckline this way and you are going to sew in 1/2 inch. So I just sew my 1/2 inch all the way down. After stitching in, this is what you will get. Okay, now we are going to fold in. I want you to watch to see how I'm folding it. You fold the seam allowance inwards, then fold 1/2 inch on top of it, and then fold another 1/2 inch. I'll go ahead and stitch all the way. To get to the end of the neckline, you fold in the other 1/2 inch. Automatically the other 1/2 inch folds in for you. So you keep folding it together with the one that is folded already and we'll sew to the end. As you're approaching the end, make sure you fold in 1/2 inch on the tip like this and fold another 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch and then sew to the end. This is what the back neckline looks like. So you can also make your neckline a V neckline. No, it's not a must it will be like this, but I feel I will have a little control over the front V neckline if I sew it this way. So the next thing we are going to do is to lay the front piece right side to right side. I will just go ahead and put them together like this. You can see how I'm putting it together this way. Then I'm going to use the facing to wrap it up and stitch 1/2 inch. After stitching, you can see the neckline is neatly finished and this is what it looks like on the wrong side. The next thing we are going to do is to hem the sleeve and open up the seam lines. I'll go over to my machine now. I'm going to hem the outer part of my sleeve this way. After hemming the sleeve, this is what I got right here. Before we sew the elastic on the shoulder line, I'm going to put the dress together like this. Arrange it very well this way. And then we are going to also put the other end together like this. Once you put it together, we are going to bring all of them together now because I just want to make a notch on the down part of my sleeve so we will know where to gather and where not to gather. So I'll bring my pattern. This is the sleeve side. You place it on the sleeve line and we are going to create a notch at the down part like this. This notch will show us where we are going to start gathering on the under bust area. So you can see the notches right now. So we are going to sew our elastic. Before we sew the elastic, you are going to put your pattern together and take the measurement on the shoulder. So the measurement on my shoulder is 14 inches. I already cut out my elastic. I cut it out. I got 14 inches. I minus 2 inches. Please make sure you minus 2 inches. So we'll go over to the machine now. I'll demonstrate to you how to sew. So in other words, my elastic length is 12 inches instead of 14 inches. So I'll show you how to sew it. Here on my machine, you are going to hide the elastic under the facing. So the elastic is just 1/2 inch elastic. You are going to open up the seam allowance. So what I did here, I was also gathering with my hands. So you are going to gather a little with your hand and then you place your elastic. Make sure you stretch the elastic. You gather a little with your hand while your seams are open. You stretch your elastic. You keep gathering with your hands like this. You keep stretching your elastic. So this is what I kept doing till I get to the end of it. So at a point, I took the measurement to know what I have before I stretch my elastic to the end. So at the end of the day, what you are supposed to have should be 14 inches, okay? So just take the measurement. Here you can see I have just 14 inches. Now we are going to sew the down part of the dress. So here you can see the notch that we made earlier. I'll bring in the down part of this dress like this. So we'll go over to the machine. I'll show you how to stitch it. Here on the machine, I'll first of all secure the pointy parts and then come over to the notch and secure the other end. After that, I'm going to start from the other end and gather. Here I started from the other end, so I'll keep gathering with my hands. So I just make pleatings, that is just it. You can make pleatings either bold or little depending on your preference. So I'll go ahead and gather back to the pointy part. On the pointy part, I want to share with you some tips and tricks. So you are going to sew off to the one end of the pointy part this way, and then you sew off the other end too this way. So that is the tips and tricks to sewing that pointy part. So you sew off one to the end and the other will overlap it to the end. So you can secure with your pin if you wear the dress, if you feel the neckline is too wide. For the back piece where we have the zipper, I'm going to lay it right side to right side. So on the center back line, I'll secure with my pin. Then on that notch, you also secure with your pin. So whatever excess you have now, you just go in and gather it inside that space. I believe you understand. So I'll gather it inside that space and do the same for the other. This is what I got right here. So you can see the zipper part, how it looks. Then you can see the open part, how it looks, okay? So the dress actually looks fine and beautiful. So make sure you use Duchess for the upper part, please. This is just a tutorial. So I'll close the sides with 1 inch. After closing the sides, this is what I got right here. The dress is very much ready and looking so beautiful and cute. So you can go ahead and add your buttons. And that is how we come to the end of this tutorial. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye.